Hi, Janice.
Hi, Anthony.
So this topic is a little bit on the downer side, but I think it's important. So let's put our smiley faces on and power through this. Yeah.
Smiley face is on.
All right. So the question is, oh boy, would you trust ACS with your kids? And what I mean by that, ACS is Child Protective Services. So this is basically a reminder for you to make your will and name your guardians. So I guess I've given away the answer.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
So if you don't have a plan in place, the question is, what happens to your kids in an emergency? So Janice, I know you have older kids, but let's roll back the clock when they're much younger and more vulnerable, and you and your husband are out on date night, right?
Right?
You have a sitter watching the kids? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's in theory. Yep,
Sure.
absolutely.
But what happens if there's, gosh forbid, an accident and both you and your husband are taken away, are not with us anymore? What happens to the kids? What is the procedure? Like the literal step-by-step procedure, right?
Right.
The police come to the house and they find a teenage babysitter there, right?
Probably
That
not much older than the oldest kid.
right.
So, right.
So unless you have a plan in place and a procedure for what happens to your kids in that scenario, your kids will be with Child Protective Services in New York called ACS for at least a brief period of time. Is that consistent with Pennsylvania, by the way?
It is. They have to find someone and somewhere for them to go.
Yeah, yeah. And this is particularly concerning. New York is full of expats, folks who are here from other parts of the country, parts of the world, to try to make it here so they can make it anywhere. And you might not have immediate family nearby to fill that gap. So this is particularly concerning for a lot of New Yorkers. Yeah.
Absolutely, because you may not have somebody that could be there. Even a lot of people have family in Florida or California. It will take them time to get here.
Oh my goodness, for sure. So what happens is your kids will be with ACS, which is New York's Child Protective Services, for at least a few days while that transition occurs. Could be longer. And a lot's going on. You're dead, right? So your kids don't have parents. So what happens to your kids while they're with ACS? And that's what this probe talks about. And it reveals some very concerning facts about how ACS is run. So number one, so your kids go to foster families in this sort of interim, and you're probably wondering, who are these foster families? How are they vetted? How are they chosen? So those are fair questions, yeah, Janice?
Yes.
So one of the problems is that ACS routinely hands over kids to foster parents who have not gone through background checks.
It's
Uh,
scary, isn't it, to
yeah,
think of that? And yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, just watch the news at any given point, and you'll see recently in our area, we're having
Yeah.
big crimes and problems from those that are in foster situations.
So we're talking about
It's
background checks and
bad.
medical exams.
Yeah.
So you don't know what sort of household from a behavioral point of view and from a medical point of view. I mean, there could be illness or contagions, or it's just not great.
No.
Foster parents are supposed to receive 30 hours of training before they're allowed to take in kids. There's just no proof of that for the vast for a routine number of parents. So the bottom line is we basically have no. It doesn't seem like we have very good safeguards in place for who your kids are going to. Great, just great.
Yeah. That's scary. And I wonder, are they just so short on foster parents that they just kind of make up foster parents quick to try to get, I wonder if the amount of children that need placement far outweigh how many people are waiting for them. Could that be, I mean, think about what you could be getting into. We just don't know.
Could be it, I guess. Just in
We,
terms of
you
locations.
just don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of locations as well, ACS has not been checking for basic things like window guards or overall cleanliness, the right number of beds. Your kids could be sharing beds with
Oh, that's
other
important.
kids. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a lot of weirdness. Just not great.
Not even have a bed at all. I mean, you hear of kids sleeping on the couches and the floors all the time.
That's true. I mean, does it feel like we're painting an Oliver Twist-ish picture, or I don't know what we're doing here?
Well, no, but I mean, it unfortunately is the reality. If you don't prepare, this could be the result, unfortunately, because that's the reality of what's out there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Preparing, the good news is it's very easy to avoid this. All you need is a will that names guardians as well as a short-term guardianship plan. Right? That's actually the linchpin that makes sure that in an accident type situation, all the gaps are covered and your kids will never be with foster care or child protective services. Pretty easy to get that done. Just get your will done. Do it with a professional, please. Please don't do it yourself
please, yes.
online.
Do
honestly,
not
that
DIY.
just makes more. Yeah, DIY means more work for Anthony because we do probate work, and
yeah.
you're creating situations that will end up paying lawyers a lot more later.
Because we'll have to fix it from not doing it correctly the first time.
And just in case you're wondering, we don't do wills ourselves in our office anymore. We're focusing on executorships, but contact one of our trusted colleagues, Laura Cowan. Her website is, I'll put it in the show notes. You can hear her on episodes number 2 and episodes number 76. She's excellent. You can also speak with Maureen Pritchard. She's also a great friend of us, of our office, and she's on episodes number 4 and episodes 55. Just if you want to hear them and get to know them a little bit before reaching out. Again,
Absolutely.
both of their
websites are fantastic.
Yeah. Both of their contact information will be in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes. So with my question for you, so with the flip side of this, you have a will and you have all the information. What if, unfortunately you're out to dinner and you don't have this plan? Shouldn't you probably tell those that are named as guardians to be prepared in the event? So something happens, they don't have to find this document to find out where to put the kids. Maybe your guardian already knows in advance.
That's exactly what the short-term guardianship plan encompasses. Who basically it'll almost be like a checklist of who to contact, and you run down this list until you hit somebody who you feel comfortable watching your kids until the full-time guardians can step in. Because let's say your brother or your sister is in a different state or a different country, you want to cover that gap until they can get there, right? So whether it's a friend, a neighbor, right, you want to make sure that person has legal authority to take your kids in for those few days until your brother or sister is involved, not Child Protective Services. Sorry, I know these city workers are just doing the best they can, but the system is not working. Obviously, yeah.
It's the reality of it. And wouldn't you feel better knowing that that your children are with so-and-so until your family flies in from out of town and everything's okay?
Exactly. And I mean, look, one other stat from this piece of news that I want to just rant alert.
Rant alert.
So look, according to this probe or study, New York City taxpayers are spending, oh my goodness, $1.1 billion a year to keep 8,400 kids in foster care. Okay? Can we do the math here, Janice, for a second?
First of all, we don't do math.
I've done the math.
but second of all,
yeah.
I really hoped you were kidding about that number.
Goodness.
That is astounding.
$1.1 billion for 8,400 kids works out to, and this is annual. This is not like all time. This is annual. $130,000 per kid per year. I mean, are you kidding me? I would like $130,000.
But for what? But wait, go back to what you're saying. So $130,000 a year to be put in the conditions that you had talked about before.
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that should be like boarding school level type treatment.
My kids don't get $130,000 a year. I mean, and they live okay, but wow.
You would think that it would at least be decent for that amount of spend. I mean, government's never going to be great. I mean, not, for the most part, just because of just how bureaucracies work, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's beyond the pale.
Wow. I mean, that should be eye-opening right there. That the statistic. That's wow. There are no words. I'm trying to think of big words. What's bigger than astounding? That's just incredible.
Well, on that happy note.
Yay.
So just keep in mind
your spirits.
Yeah. So if you're in the situation where you have a newborn or you have young kids and you've always thought, oh, I know I should do my will and I should name guardians. And I'm not the kind of guy, I'm not the kind of lawyer who's going to fearmonger you into doing something, but just be aware. This is what could happen, and this is the governmental structure that is in place if those. Because I mean, obviously, these are rare instances. Obviously, my plan is to live. I hope yours is too.
It is. It definitely is. Yes.
But if anything would happen, yeah.
And I don't think this is fear mongering at all. It is reality that if it isn't set up, this could happen. I mean, get you well if you can. I mean, that's really the way to break it down, but definitely not instilling fear. It's just instilling reality, which I think is completely different.
All right. So that's all I have for today. Please take this information for what it's worth. Contact Laura or Maureen if you're interested in getting something set up. Let them know that we sent you, and they'll make sure to treat you right. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and thank you, Janice. We'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk soon.
Bye now.